The year is 2007. We are on the fifth Harry Potter movie now. We've just seen a rough cut of Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix. And being meddling movie producers in this mirror universe, we're going to fix it. It was a whole lot of word salad coming at you. Cue the intro. Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Mirror Movie Universe. I'm joined once again by Brian. Brian, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Dan. How you doing?
I'm good. I've
Good,
uh,
good.
I've got a confession to make. As
Lay it
what
on
is
me.
that? Who said that?
I'm not
Coldplay?
a priest, but it's cool. I can so,
Well,
so I can hear your confession. I'm just not canonically allowed to offer you absolution.
well, oh man, why would I even tell you? No, I when we started this, right? Like when we were talking about having you on the show and doing movies, right? You were like, we have to do Harry Potter. We have to do Harry Potter. Oh my gosh, we do Harry Potter. That's
Yeah.
my Brian impression. And I was like, yeah, I'd love to, but I'm gonna have to watch the movies. And your wife looked at me and she was like, you've seen the Harry Potter movies, right?
Yeah.
And it cut me to my core, and I lied and said yes. I had only seen the first four and only read the first four books, and then I gave up on it.
What?
So I know, I
Oh,
know,
like you gave up on the better half. You're like, man,
I
not that good. Like, wow.
know. What was I doing? So anyway, I had to go and like rewatch the ones I'd already seen, and then I jumped in, and I got to say thank you. This has been an
Yeah,
absolute treat getting into the
dude.
back half of this.
They're that good. I mean, like from here on out, the movies. I mean, I've loved the movies before, but they are like fantastic and on point. 5, 6, 7, 7.2. Um,
7.2, I like it.
yeah, like so it's just, I mean, they're awesome from here on out. Um, which then leads me to my recap. All
Yeah,
right,
you
ready?
ready? You gonna do it?
I'm feeling good. I'm feeling good.
All right,
I will.
let's do it.
I like brevity is the term for tonight. Okay,
All
right? I
right,
will be
let's do it.
quick.
Rock,
All right.
rock and roll.
So we open up. Harry, of course, is still at the Dursleys. He hates it there. He's miserable as always. They're very cruel to him.
No. Oh wait, no, you're right. You're right. You're right. This is the last time the Dursleys appear in a film. You are correct. We do open
That's
with the
no.
Dursleys.
That's not. Well, deleted scene of 7. They also show up.
True, true.
And which is really sad, but we'll get to that in 7. Um, so
You're right.
Dursleys
I'm sorry.
there.
My bad. Mea culpa.
Um, And this summer, you realize that Harry has had zero news. So 4 ended. Voldemort's back. Harry says it. Dumbledore believes him. Dumbledore tells Harry's story to the whole school, and then Harry goes back to the Dursleys immediately and gets nothing. So it opens the movie not only isolated because he's the Dursleys, but he's isolated from the whole magical world. Zero news, zero contact, zero anything. And so this is very important to the whole plot of the story. He's angry. He's angry with his friends. He's angry at Dumbledore. He's angry at Sirius because no one's talking to him and he doesn't know why. He said that they would come get him, that he could go live at the Burrow with Ron, and he gets nothing. So he's out sort of wandering around as he does to fill his time. And he runs into his cousin who's sort of mean to him. And then immediately they get attacked by Dementors. So 2 Dementors show up. Harry uses magic. Very importantly, he uses magic, his knowledge of the Patronus charm, to cast away the Dementors. And then he has to go back to the Dursleys. He immediately gets a letter that says he's now expelled from Hogwarts. And he's devastated and terrified. He doesn't know what he's going to do. Should he go on the run? Should he just grab his stuff and leave? Like, he doesn't know what this means. And then shortly thereafter, he finds out he's not actually expelled. Dumbledore has worked some, no pun intended, worked some magic there at the Ministry, and gotten his expulsion postponed until after a formal hearing. So Harry then gets ushered to this house that he's never been before, and he finds out that this is Sirius's childhood home, and more importantly, it's the headquarters of the Order of the Phoenix. And he finds out that this order that was built around fighting against Voldemort the last time he was in power has now been reassembled. And they've made the headquarters Sirius's home, or childhood home. Sirius actually hates it there. But this is where Harry is. Um, He reunites with Ron and Hermione, reunites with Sirius. It's all very wonderful. And he finally goes to his hearing. And at his hearing, they're sort of accusing him. They clearly have rigged the whole system against him. And they accuse him of underage sorcery, and you're not allowed to do that until you reach a certain age. And Dumbledore shows up out of the blue, defends Harry. Harry gets off. He's saved. He gets to go back to Hogwarts. But Dumbledore doesn't speak a word to him.
Mhm.
Dumbledore only addresses the court, and when he turns to leave, Dumbledore just goes. He does not interact with Harry whatsoever. And this makes Harry very frustrated, very angry. Um, he's finally off. He feels relieved. He shows back up at Hogwarts. At this hearing, he sees this woman in pink who has like a toad-like face. And then when he goes to Hogwarts, he sees her again. She's actually been hired as the Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher. Her name is Dolores Umbridge. In Against the Dark Arts, he realizes that she's not going to teach them any magic. Everything is oddly enough purely intellectual, right? It's all academic knowledge, and she sees no practical import to her class whatsoever. So she doesn't teach them any magic, and she doesn't teach them Defense Against the Dark Arts, and this infuriates them. The Ministry now, her with her presence, now they have a sort of spy, but a very self-conscious spy. Like she works for the Ministry. Um, at Hogwarts. She's made High Inquisitor. She now can sort of evaluate in teacher speak. So I'm a school administrator, so this is the world I live in. But she has the power to evaluate all these teachers and ultimately to fire them if she sees necessary. So she goes about evaluating all these teachers and being very cruel and sort of figuring out who's really on Dumbledore's side and who's not. And the Ministry sees Dumbledore as like their mortal enemy. The Minister of Magic thinks Dumbledore is trying to overthrow the Ministry, so this is their spy at Hogwarts, at Dumbledore's place of work. Um, let's see. I was about to make a point about the plot. What am I? I'm forgetting some major plot point.
So Harry then starts his own club, Dumbledore's
Yeah, but we're
Army.
not. There's something else just before that. Before they start Dumbledore's army. I don't know. It'll come back to me in a moment. So Dumbledore's rolling. Dumbledore is not interacting with Harry whatsoever.
Mhm.
Yes, Dolores. Oh, I remember what it was. Dolores clearly has it out for Harry, and
Yeah.
she then gives him detention for a week. And she has this special little pen that carves "I must not tell lies" into his hand. And she's now essentially torturing him. And for every tiny little outburst of his, or every time he says Dumbledore's back, or every time he says Dumbledore killed Cedric, she immediately gives him another week's detention. And there's nothing he can do. And because she's also evaluating the teachers, McGonagall can't help her. Dumbledore is giving him the silent treatment. Harry's got no outlet, and Hagrid's gone. Like he doesn't know where Hagrid is at all. Um, so yes, because they're not learning Defense Against the Dark Arts, they decide they're going to form this club to practice Defense Against the Dark Arts. They're going to try to train themselves. And Harry becomes the leader because Harry has the most experience in defending against the dark arts because Voldemort keeps trying to kill him. So Harry becomes the leader of this group. He's now teaching them all this advanced magic. They're growing. They're doing great things. Dolores forms her own little club to try to investigate and figure out who's doing all these bad things that are breaking the rules that she's established. Again, Dumbledore's still silent here. Um, and eventually, Harry realizes, and so the whole time his scar is burning and he doesn't really know why, but Dumbledore told him that he could sense when Voldemort is angry.
Mhm.
And then he realizes he has this vision of Ron's dad getting attacked. And he then finally goes to Dumbledore and he's like, I don't know what's happening to me. And he yells at Dumbledore and he says, look at me. He's all angry. And Dumbledore explains very briefly, that that Voldemort and him have a connection, that Voldemort can read Harry's mind, and Harry needs to learn how to defend himself against this. So now Snape is charged with teaching Harry this, and Snape hates Harry, seemingly hates Harry. And Harry very much hates Snape. So they're now stuck learning from each other, learning how to defend against these sort of mental attacks that Voldemort is hypothetically capable of doing, but they don't know if Voldemort has figured this out yet. Harry feels increasingly isolated. He loses Quidditch, so the Quidditch is not going on. That's in the book, not the movies. Um, but um, yeah. So eventually, he finally tells Sirius like, "This is all happening. I don't know what to do. I'm so angry." And Sirius gives him some really great advice. He just says like, "Look, everybody's got good or bad, but you make a choice. You've always been a kid who makes good choices, and you decide the kind of man you're going to become." Which is quite comforting for Harry. So he continues on. Dumbledore's army is eventually discovered. Um, and because it's discovered, Voldemort is fired from being headmaster. Dolores Umbridge is made headmaster.
Dumbledore.
What?
Dumbledore is fired.
What did I say?
Voldemort.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Dumbledore escapes, right? He
Yeah.
just he poof vanishes. It's very cool. Very cool moment.
Yep.
And now Umbridge is in charge of the whole school. Ooh.
Yep.
Yeah.
So she decides she's gonna figure out who's doing this. She has in fact given a truth telling potion to Cho, who rats out Dumbledore's army. She discovers this. Dumbledore gets sacked, and she's about to torture Harry. Um, and then Harry has another vision. This is very important. Harry has a vision of Sirius getting attacked. Um, and now he's like, I cannot sit around. We have to go wherever he's at. We have to go, and he knows where he's at. It's at the Ministry of Magic. Um, so he tricks Dolores Umbridge. They sort of go to the woods, and it turns out Hagrid has a brother. Um, they trick her, and he and a few of the members of Dumbledore's army then go and have a battle at the Ministry of Magic over this prophecy. You realize Voldemort's been pursuing this prophecy the whole time, and the prophecy is about Harry. Particularly, well, you find out later on that it prophesies that only one of them can live. So either Harry kills Voldemort or Voldemort kills Harry. It's going to come down to this one last battle. Um, so they have, when they get there, Lucius Malfoy has been charged with stealing the prophecy, but he needs Harry to do it. So Lucius had sort of tricked him to get there. This massive battle ensues. The prophecy is destroyed, but Harry is able to listen to it before Lucius delivers it to Voldemort. And that's a very, very important plot point. Lucius fails at his task at getting the prophecy.
Right.
You don't know what this means yet, but importantly for movies moving forward, Lucius has failed at the one task that Voldemort gave him. Another battle ensues that's now kids and adults against the Death Eaters.
Right. The Order of the
Um,
Phoenix shows up. They join in the fight.
that's right. And then very sadly, Sirius gets killed by Bellatrix Lestrange.
Mhm.
So Bellatrix kills Sirius very instantly. Harry is now let all of this frustration, all of this anger sort of bubbling to the surface. It's now coming fully out of him, and he chases her down. He crucios her, and then Voldemort, figuring out that they've got the mind connection, tempts him. Kill her. You know the spell. Just kill her off right now. You know you want to. You know you're angry. Just do it. Um, very like Empire Strikes Back esque.
Mhm.
Or I guess no. Yeah, I guess Empire.
Yeah, yeah. Join me. Yeah.
So Harry denies it. He sort of pushes off Voldemort, and he realizes that actually, like his greatest power is his friends and the love of his friends and the love of the world that he's created. And then finally, the movie ends with this massive battle between Dumbledore, who shows up, fights Voldemort. They're battling back and forth, and the Minister of Magic shows up, sees Voldemort in the flesh, and now the Minister is totally disgraced. Voldemort flees. Dumbledore has now won. Dumbledore's reinstated. And the movie concludes with this really, really important conversation that Harry has with Dumbledore, where yes, Dumbledore admits either you or him live. Like this whatever this massive battle is, this war over the world, it's going to end with you or Voldemort. And Harry now realizes that there's no escaping this. There's no normality anymore. This is his lot in life, so to speak. And he comes to grip with that. And that's the sort of end of the movie. I tried to be brief.
You did a great job.
Thank
You
you.
did a
Yeah,
really great
I
job.
was like lightning fast through there.
No, that was fantastic. Yeah, let me give you a chance. So, we're going to talk about what we like about it, and then what we would ultimately fix about it. This is a really tough one for me because it is my favorite book, of the whole series. It is my least favorite film. Having said that, there are some really good parts of it. The story is amazing, and that's the reason that it's my favorite book. Is the story is phenomenal. This is the linchpin that holds everything together. It very much glossed over in the films, but this is their owl exams. This is where kind of that first level exam that they get to take. So all the schooling that they've been doing kind of comes to a conclusion here, and they have like 2 more years to go on to higher education. And then you get the Order of the Phoenix coming in and setting up all of the battle that is to come. And Harry is learning defense against the dark arts himself. He's teaching other people this. He's building an army. And so it is very much the conclusion of sort of, oh, this is the fun, frivolous, like kid years, and we're now preparing for war. And it's really well balanced, both of those things in the story. So I absolutely love this. Umbridge is a phenomenal villain, like really phenomenal. Imelda Stanton is so good,
No,
so
she's
good.
fantastic.
She is so
I'm gonna talk about that also. Yeah,
she's
she's
so
so
good.
so good.
She is, and there's a reason why like fans talk about like, oh, she's so much worse than Voldemort, and it's so funny to me because like all she did was like ban some stuff at a school, but fans are like, oh, she's the worst ever. Like compared to Voldemort, she's like not even close. But Imelda Stanton does such a good job of portraying such a hated character. Really, really great. I love calling out actors and actresses, so I'll also give a shout out to Evanna Lynch, who gets introduced as Luna
Oh yeah.
for the first time. Um, you know, there's a bunch of like extra features on the DVDs that you can watch, and one of them is a conversation between Steve Clives, who wrote most of the movies, screenplays, not this one, but all the others, and J.K. Rowling. It's a phenomenal conversation. It lasts about an hour, and he asks her at one point. He says, "When you're writing, do you picture anyone as you're writing the characters now?" And J.K. Rowling said, "There's only one person." And she didn't say Alan Rickman or Maggie Smith or
Oh,
Richard.
that's why I would have guessed Maggie Smith. I was like
She
McGonagall.
said Evanna Lynch. She said
Wow.
she is Luna. And I don't think you can have a higher praise from the author who created the character than for her to say, when I picture the character, the way she looks, the way she talks, the way that she moves, it's this person acting it. That's such a high praise. Really, really awesome. She does a great job. I think that all the kid actors in this movie, I mean, all the actors have been great so far, but all of them are really good. Ginny is really good. Neville is really good. You get really great moments with this. Um, and I love like I mean Emma Watson and Rupert Grint, like everybody is growing and into these more adult roles, which when you're casting kid actors is kind of a gamble. And they really, really pull it off well. So um have to give lots of props there. But that those are what I really enjoy about this movie. What do you enjoy about The Order of the Phoenix, Brian?
I mean, there's so much. This also, along with Dan, this is my favorite book. I'm actually rereading it right now, and by reading I mean listening. Um, but I don't hate the movie. It's still one of my favorite movies. Much like I felt about Goblet of Fire, there's so much more in the book, but so much happens in the book. This should have been a two-parter also.
Yeah.
Like this was so robust in plot development, in character development, in storyline. There's just so much going on in this that they really needed two movies. And honestly, if I'm being like perfectly, if I have perfect candor, what's the phrase I'm looking for?
Yeah.
If I'm perfectly honest here, they made the right calls. They sort of focused on the right characters. I think when there's so much like right, they don't talk about Quidditch at all. In the
Right.
book, Harry actually gets kicked off the Quidditch team because he fights Malfoy.
Hmm.
But they gloss over that because this doesn't drive it forward. And what they nail, and you're absolutely right, is Dolores Umbridge.
Hmm.
Like you hate her. And you hate her, I think, and I've thought about this a lot. Like Voldemort's evil. Voldemort knows he's evil. And everybody else knows Voldemort's evil. Voldemort is a pure like might makes right. Since I'm more powerful, I can do what I want.
Hmm.
Since you are
Hmm.
weak, he's like a Nietzschean or Glaucon. If anybody's read Plato's Republic, he's purely Glaucon. Like Mike means right, therefore I can do whatever I want. Little Platonic reference for any philosophers listening. Um, um, but Umbridge is so sanctimonious. She's
Hmm.
so self-righteous. She's so haughty. Haughty is the word that Book of Proverbs use. That you want her to get her comeuppance.
Yeah.
Like you hate her because she loves being evil. She takes pleasure in the downfall of everyone else. Voldemort, frankly, couldn't care less about everybody else. Like right, you're nothing but an ant for him to squish. Um, but Dolores, or they do such a great job of portraying her, and so too does the actress. What's her name?
Imelda Stanton.
Imelda Staunton. She's excellent. Also in The Crown. If anyone watches The Crown, she's excellent there too. But she's so good at this condescending self-righteousness of everyone else around her. She's convinced she's right. She's convinced everyone else is wrong. She thrives and takes pleasure in authority, and you just loathe her.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you can't wait for her to get knocked down a peg or two. She's so haughty. And that's like right, the emotion that she brings out is so well portrayed. That even in the movie, the way they display her downfall, like you want it to be worse. You want it to like, I want her to suffer more. I want her to just like fall more, but she's just excellent. So I think they made the right calls here in their editing process to drive the story forward. Um, even yeah, actually, I'll get to that when we get to fixes.
Okay.
Yeah. But I think that the distance, like Dumbledore does very little in this story. Um, and Harry's doesn't really mention it. I wish they had done a little bit better job there of just Harry sort of saying like Voldemort's not or Dumbledore's not talking to me. Dumbledore's not talking to me.
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
his absence from the story itself is it like tells that part. Like he's just not there. And you almost forget him about it a little bit because Harry's too busy, having a crush on Cho and doing Dumbledore's army and suffering Umbridge, and so you sort of forget that Dumbledore's even a character. Uh, but his absence is sort of like, oh man, where has he been this whole time?
Yeah.
Like, what's he doing when the ministry is getting involved in his school and when the ministry is sacking his teachers and doing all of these other things? Um, he's like very just not present. So I do think they made some really painful cuts, but if you're gonna jam it all into one movie, I think they do a really great job of it.
I
Um,
disagree with you so much.
I know, yeah.
Um,
But I will say also, this is the first one, and I recently watched this with my own kids, and they've seen it before. It's the first one where the main trio, Rupert Grint, Dan Radcliffe, and Emma Watson, they now look like adults.
mhm.
And like now from here on out, from 5 through 7.2, it's the same director. So you've got tonally, it all feels very similar.
Mhm.
And that was very well chosen by, I presume, the producers or
Mhm.
perhaps Warner Brothers. Um, they did a good job because the books also shift tonally from here on out.
Yeah.
So they got a kind of symmetry, a continuity among this last half of the story, and so they very wisely picked a great director and then stuck with him to sort of carry this all out. But the characters also, I think, in just their own like biological maturity and acting maturity, professionalism, they really feel like adults now.
Hmm.
And so everybody, this movie just feels more mature, more adult, more is going on, and it's really great to see. They did a great job.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to knock it too much. It's a great movie. When when you have the longest book of the series as the shortest runtime for a film,
is it really?
yeah.
It's the shortest of all 7.2?
Well, 7.2 is a little bit shorter, but if you consider that it's two films
Fair enough,
that
yeah.
are translated from one book, yeah, it's the shortest screen time for a book. It's I think it's jarring what they leave out. And
Yeah.
So as I was going through and watching it, I had read the book. I'm watching the film. I'm so excited to see some of these things play out, and they don't. Some of them are cut and they don't make sense, like Seamus believing Harry all of a sudden. Rita Skeeter's cut, so that whole subplot is gone. That makes no sense. Dumbledore's army, they don't explain the ring or the coins that gives
Yeah.
secret messages, so you don't know how Jenny and Luna and Neville all show up at the end to kind of help with Umbridge and everything. And there are other scenes in here that feel cut short, like Snape's flashback when he calls Lily a mudblood and everything. It's short. In the book, it goes on much longer. Same with the confrontation between McGonagall and Umbridge. In the movie, it's
Uh-huh.
very short, and in the book, it goes on and on. And I will tutor Harry myself to make him an Auror. He'd be a great Auror, and I wanted to see Maggie Smith get to do that. And so watching it, I felt more like it was paint by numbers. They were just like, "Yep, got this. Yep, okay, move on. Next scene, let's go." And I don't think that that's the director's fault. I think that lies solely with the screenwriter. Um, and they actually tried to cut Creature as well, and J.K. Rowling was like, "No, you have to have Creature. He's very important to what is going to happen later."
Yeah.
Because
Thank
book
God she
seven,
stepped in there.
I
I
know,
didn't know
yeah,
they
and
tried to cut Creature out.
book seven came out like right as the movie was being released here, so they didn't know again what was going to happen.
Yeah.
Um, but there was one thing. So my fix for this, out of everything that was left out of the book and cut from the book, there's one thing that really bugs me. It's my favorite moment in any of the books. Right after Sirius dies, Harry goes to Dumbledore's office, and you mentioned that it's a really important, pivotal moment in the film.
Oh, this might be in the books my favorite like segment in the
Yes,
entire narrative.
it is my favorite chapter
Mhm.
ever written. Dumbledore is
Yeah.
so kind and caring, and Harry. I mean, Dumbledore's reaction to Harry is like textbook perfect and how to
Yeah.
deal with like an abused kid. Harry is lashing out in the book. He's breaking Dumbledore's things, which are like one of a kind. It's like
Yeah.
very rare things. Harry's smashing them, and Dumbledore just looks at him and he says, "I have far too many things." Harry in that moment is trying to get a rise out of Dumbledore. He's trying to get him to yell and scream and get involved. Dumbledore's very calm, he's very measured, and he says, "Harry, sit down. I'm going to explain everything." This is right after he's lost Sirius. Harry is as vulnerable as he's ever been. And Dumbledore is so kind and so nurturing in that moment. And we don't get
He's
that in the movie.
apologetic. Like,
Yes.
yeah, he's so apologetic because that distance, he admits he's like, I've distanced myself from you to try to protect you. And
Yeah.
I've done wrong. I made the wrong choice. Yeah.
Yeah. It's so good. Like
So good.
reading it like as a parent, I'm just like, oh, I want to be that way. Like I really do. Um, and we don't get that. Like we get a very abbreviated little clip in the movie where they're both sitting down and they're just like very calm. And Harry's just like, "Oh yeah, why weren't you talking to me?" And Dumbledore's like, "Well, I was just trying to protect you." And then they move on. So you don't get to see Harry dealing with the effects of Sirius's death, nor do you get to see Dumbledore explain it in a kind and caring way. Now there is a deleted scene cut from this where Harry is really broken up about Sirius and Ron's trying to get him to like go eat and Harry's like, "No, I'm not going to do it." So my fix is please just go and put that whole scene from the book in. It's the best thing in the book. It's the best thing written. Please go and film that. If you're not going
Can't
to
even
do
move out
that,
of my playbook right now. Mine is always like just add more, add more, add more. Like
but if you're not going to do that, then at least give me the deleted scene. Show Harry dealing with Sirius's death. I hate when movies just gloss over the death of a character. And I know Harry screams, "No!" But then that's it. That's it. That's all that they have from that. And then it's just, "Hey, Dumbledore, why'd you ignore me?" "Oh, well, let me tell you." So that's my fix for this. Show Harry grappling with Sirius's death. That was his father figure. It was his escape. It was so much to him. Please put in the scene from the book. But that's my fix.
yeah. So I have two fixes, and one is very similar to yours, but I'm gonna get to my first because this is my least favorite aspect of any of the movies. I find it so distracting, so borderline unprofessional. I do not know what happened. But when Umbridge finally confronts Harry, and Hermione in the moment is like, "No, we know where Dumbledore's secret weapon is," and they trick her. And so Hermione and Harry and Umbridge go out to the Forbidden Forest, and they run into Hagrid's brother, his half brother, who
Yeah.
is a giant, who Hagrid is sort of like taking care of. Um, his brother is portrayed with about the worst CGI
Yeah.
that I've ever seen in any movie. It's like 1997 level CGI. How it is that they were a full decade past. It might even be earlier, right? Like let's go 1984 style. I mean, we're like just better than like. In fact, you know what? That doesn't even make sense because I think Star Wars did better. And Star Wars has like early version CGI. Like it's so bad. It's so distracting
Yes.
that and this is really important, right? This is the part that I reference. This is Umbridge's comeuppance. She is finally getting what's coming to her. And you've got this terrible, terrible, distracting, disorienting CGI.
Hmm.
And Hermione at some point is like, "Grop, put me down," and
Yeah.
it's this the crappy CGI hand and this like very very inhuman way of interacting because I don't know. Did Warner Brothers go and just like you know what? It's not worth the extra 500,000. Just make it sucky. I don't know what happened, but it's so I mean, like, and all of our viewers, I'm sure, have seen this scene and are thinking the same thing because it immediately, and from like a movie telling perspective, this is the kind of thing that takes you out of the story,
Yeah.
out of the narrative, and reminds you that you are watching a movie,
Yeah.
a man-made fake creation, and it is just a smack in the face of its fakeness.
Yeah.
And something that Harry Potter, the entire movie series, does such a good job with practical effects at some point, and when they use CGI, they do it in a way that is excellent, that just tells the story, and you're in it, you're involved, you're invested. Think of every Dementor we see when it's Dementor's kiss, and I had no doubt, never a moment did I think like, "Ooh, look at that CGI of them taking the soul out of Sirius's mouth." Nope,
Yeah.
because it's great, but this is so terrible. So I could go on and on and on. I feel like
No,
I'm
I
being
couldn't agree more, and it looks worse like as time goes on. It takes you completely out of it. They did a lot of CGI in this to the point where they didn't build practical sets. Like the Ministry of Magic is just green screen.
Mhm.
There's no practical set there, and that looks a little bit funky now. With like we're 15 years past it. You look at it and you go, oh yeah, I can kind of tell that that's like the orbs and stuff all look the same. Oh yeah, sure. But the giant is like egregiously bad.
Yeah.
I couldn't agree more. Yeah.
Yeah. In fact, I doubt you ever watched it, and I'm definitely not recommending it for anyone. But Twilight, um, I know. But there's a scene where, like, Bella, I think her name was, she has a baby, and they show the baby, and the baby is again just the worst CGI you've ever seen in your life. And it's just, I mean, you could have made an animatronic that was better. You could have picked a Cabbage Patch doll that was better. And this is that same way. It just instantly takes you out of the story, reminds you that you're not really in this, that you're just watching a movie, that it's all fake. And it does such a disservice to the entire story. So if I was going to fix it, I would go to bat as a producer and say, Warner Brothers, we need another million, we need another 500,000, whatever it is. This company needs more time to make this giant look real.
Yeah.
We've got to sell this. So that's my number one main fix of this movie.
Love it.
Um, and then the other one, I mean, like, so just building off of you, I did feel like Sirius is a minor character in this story in the movies.
Hmm.
You see him in the beginning. You've got another really beautiful scene where Sirius tells his family history. And he says how his mother hated him and actually burned his face out of this big tapestry of the family. So you've got a couple of really powerful scenes with Sirius. Um, yeah, was this the movie where he shows up in the fire, or was that
I
four?
think that's four.
Okay.
Goblet. Yeah.
Like you see him periodically. But if you had had just more serious and you really got that sense, and this movie in particular drove home. They did a great job in 3 in Azkaban, in reminding you that Harry has no home and now he's got family. This is somebody that knew his parents, that is going to offer him a home and a warm and loving home. People that are excited to see him, a father figure that's willing to raise him and invest in him. And I wanted a couple more scenes to remind me that Sirius is Harry's guy. You know, like the Weasleys are a kind of proxy, but Sirius is Harry's family.
Yeah.
And when Sirius gets killed, Harry sees all of that dissipate instantly. And all of that anger that's been bubbling under the surface is now has exploded. I mean, they dropped a ton of dynamite on it. Because everything Harry hoped that he might have in this world is now gone again. Um, and it didn't quite feel earned to me. And it moved so quickly from the death to the
Yes.
battle between Voldemort and Dumbledore that it doesn't quite land either. It's like he's dead, Harry's tempted, now big battle.
Yeah.
Um, so I wanted that to be a little bit more earned. And there are several fixes. Again, I solve it by adding more serious scenes so that death lands a little better. They could have, milked that immediate shock to Harry's system a little bit more. They could have waited more for that big battle between Dumbledore and Voldemort, but that just didn't quite feel earned the way it did, the way it should have.
Yeah. Yeah, you and I are tackling it different. You want more leading up to it. I want more of the aftermath, but I agree with you. Like, it's such a pivotal moment for this character. You have to do something. So,
Yeah.
yeah. All right. Hey, audience, that brings us to the end of the Order of the Phoenix. So, what do you think? Do you think that there should have been more scenes? What should have been left in that was cut out? Do you think the CGI is great? No, it's not. It's absolutely awful.
No one thinks that.
It's so bad. What do you want to see changed about the Order of the Phoenix? Are we both wrong? Is it just the best Harry Potter film ever made? Maybe. Sound off in the thing. Like, comment, subscribe because we're going to be doing the Half-Blood Prince next.
Very soon.
Yeah, we're very excited for it. So, from all of us, thank you so much for watching. God loves you.
And so do we.